I thank my good friend Munir for that very kind introduction. I don't know whether any of you noticed a Freudian slip he made in introducing me. You are very Singaporean, you're always thinking about money. So instead of introducing me as being with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you said Ministry of Finance. Yes. um, but please do not be overly impressed by all the accolades I've received. I always explain to friends who are meeting me for the first time that I feel very much like the character in a Hollywood movie, Forrest Gump. My children actually think I'm not very bright and that all the achievements of my life were due to the fact that I was at the right place and at the right time and had great colleagues. And I often bask in the good work of my colleagues. But about a week ago, I received an email from Munir saying that the Asean Business Club was having its annual meeting in Singapore, and could I please come and speak to the club at dinner? My response to him was immediate and very, very brief. I said, Munir, your wish is my command. I, of course, didn't know what I was getting into. I want to say at the beginning that as an old professor of law, I'm of course used to giving lectures, but speaking at a dinner is very different from giving a lecture, and Ellen will agree, or making a presentation at a conference. A very experienced public speaker once explained to me that speaking after dinner, your speech should resemble a woman's bikini. It should be brief, but it should cover all the vital points. And as you heard from Yulin earlier on, my wife's good advice to me is never to make more than 3 points. So what I'm going to do this evening is to share with you the 3 reasons why I believe in ASEAN. So let me begin. Reason number 1. From an era of war and instability to an era of peace and stability. As you all know, ASEAN was born on the 8th of August, 1967 in Bangkok. In 1967, Southeast Asia was an unstable region. The Vietnam War was raging and threatening to engulf Cambodia. Many of the countries in Southeast Asia were fighting either communist insurgencies or regional rebellions. There was a huge deficit of understanding and trust between and among the members of ASEAN because we had been ruled by different colonial masters and we have lived in isolation from one another. Our prospects were so unpromising that Western pundits in 1967 used to describe us in Southeast Asia as the Balkans of Asia. So the prognosis was not favorable. So I want to fast forward 48 years to 2015. What is the situation today? I would say the region is peaceful and stable. And although there have been border skirmishes between some ASEAN countries, such as Cambodia and Thailand, I'm happy to report that no 2 ASEAN countries have fought a war against each other since 1967. Unlike the European Union, we cannot yet say that a war between 2 ASEAN countries is unthinkable. We can't say that. But I'm confident in saying that we are moving towards that happy state of affairs. The bottom line is that Southeast Asia is at peace with itself and at peace with the world. So that's my first reason for believing in ASEAN. ASEAN has brought peace and stability to the region. My second reason, from poverty to prosperity. In 1967, I would not be wrong in saying the region was uniformly poor and backward. Most of our people subsisted on agriculture, on very small-scale farming. Natural resources were extracted and exported to the West with very little processing and value added. There was, of course, a trading network in Southeast Asia that goes back to pre-colonial times, but trade was very modest, and manufacturing for export to the world had not yet started. So in 1967, our economic prospects were not very bright. Fast forward to 2015, as we all know, some ASEAN countries like Brunei and Singapore are classified as high-income countries. Other countries like Malaysia are middle income and very likely to make it to high-income countries. And all 10 countries have made impressive progress. Taken together, the ASEAN economy is the 7th largest economy in the world and the fastest growing region in the world. And ASEAN is constantly reinventing ourselves. Our new ambition is to make a historic transition from being an association to being a community. Will we succeed in becoming an ASEAN economic community by the 31st of December this year? I know that Nasir is skeptical. Statistically, the journey is more than 80% complete. I would say that we are almost down to the last mile. But as you know, the last mile, as in a marathon, is the hardest. And we are up against many vested interests in all of our countries. My own view is that if we have the political will and we have the support of the private sector, the journey will be completed. Even if we miss the deadline by a little, it does not matter. The trajectory is clear. There is political determination in all 10 capitals that we will succeed in making this historic transition. I had the pleasure a few years ago of chairing the high-level task force that drafted the ASEAN Charter. So I look back on progress in the last few years with very great satisfaction. My third and final reason for believing in ASEAN, and this is something not very well known outside Southeast Asia, is the indispensable role that ASEAN plays in building a new regional order in Asia. Let me explain. The 10 ASEAN countries have until now been able to act as one in our external relations. As a group, ASEAN is united, it is independent, and is neutral. And for this reason, we are able to play the role of a convener and facilitator of regional dialogue. In 1997, ASEAN convened the first ASEAN Plus 3 summit in Kuala Lumpur. We did it because we realized during the 1997 financial crisis that Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia are inextricably linked to each other. But when we invited China, Japan, and South Korea to meet with us in Kuala Lumpur in 1997, we had not realized that our three friends in Northeast Asia had never met by themselves until 1997. So when they came to Kuala Lumpur, they were a little wary of each other, and they had a breakfast meeting. Then in the next year, at the second ASEAN Plus 3 summit, their comfort level had gone up a little, and they had a lunch meeting. And then in the third year, they had a dinner meeting. And in the fourth year, they decided to have the first trilateral dialogue. So ASEAN has not only kept the peace in Southeast Asia, we have made a significant contribution to peace and to cooperation in Northeast Asia. And my Western friends ask me, are you not worried that the three Northeast Asian countries may succeed in getting together? I say, not at all. The ASEAN dream is that there will be peace in Asia. And this dream will not be achieved unless there's peace between China and Japan, and between Japan and Korea. So it is ASEAN's wish that the three Northeast Asian countries should not only get along with each other, they should cooperate closely together, and they will succeed in concluding the trilateral free trade agreement that they have started to negotiate. After launching ASEAN Plus 3, we realized that there were other countries, major powers that had a stake in our region. Countries like the United States, countries like India, countries like Russia. And the ASEAN philosophy is a philosophy of inclusiveness. Instead of keeping the major power out of our region, our philosophy is to invite them to join us at our table. And so we launched a new initiative called the East Asia Summit. And in addition to China, Japan, and South Korea, we invited the United States, invited India, invited Russia, invited Australia and New Zealand to join us. I would say that if the pundits are right, that the future of the world will be determined in the Asia Pacific, then I'm bold enough to make the argument that the East Asia Summit is strategically a very important forum. My wife is timing me, so I will just make one more point and conclude. ASEAN has also used its FTA policy, the Free Trade Agreement policy, to promote cooperation and deeper economic integration, both to benefit the welfare of our people, but also to reduce the danger of conflict. And as you know, ASEAN has concluded free trade area agreements with China, with Japan, with India, with South Korea, with Australia, and with New Zealand. And we are working very hard to conclude the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which brings together 16 countries. I hope, Kirk, that after TPP gets through, President Obama will offer to negotiate an FTA with ASEAN. And this will be, in a way, a fulfillment of a personal wish. Because I was Singapore's chief negotiator in negotiating a free trade agreement with the United States. And when I was doing so, my Malaysian and Indonesian brothers and sisters asked me, why are you breaking ranks with us? And I said, no, I'm not breaking ranks with you. Regard me as a pathfinder, that I want to negotiate an FTA with the United States, which will then be a paving stone to an eventual ASEAN-US FTA. And I will be very happy, Kirk, if and when your boss makes us such a proposal. So I shall conclude. A few years ago, the European Union was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for its contribution to peace in Europe. Many Asians were skeptical and criticized the Nobel Prize Committee in Norway. I did not. I applauded them. Because if you remember the history of Europe in the 20th century, in the first half of the 20th century, our European brothers and sisters plunged the world into 2 world wars. Miraculously, at the end of the Second World War, they decided to put an end to this. And beginning with the Modest Treaty of Rome They have built an oasis of prosperity and of peace. I want to propose tonight that we should consider nominating Asean for the Nobel Peace Prize. Because like the European Union, we have made very significant contributions to peace, not just in Southeast Asia, but in the larger East Asia, and I would argue in the Asia Pacific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, for the inspiring address.